But of course, we're not live, or I'm not live. We're not live in the afternoon. So I meant to say we're live in the evening. So good evening, everyone. I know it's been a while since I've been here. Since I've done any streaming or any videos altogether on my channel. I was looking at my channel today, and it's been a month, 4 weeks. It says. I like, wow, really? I haven't streamed or done anything in 4 weeks. I'm like, really? Wow. I couldn't. Like, I was kind of shocked by that. So it was like, wow, 4 weeks. I thought it was a couple of weeks at most, that I haven't done anything. That I hadn't done anything on YouTube. I didn't know that it was like 4 weeks. And there's plenty of reasons why. I mean, you know, holidays, this weekend especially, The only reason why I'm doing the show today, because I do have a guest. And as you guys see in the link in the description box below, his name is joemcgaha. He'll be on in a few minutes. He told me so. He'll be on in a few minutes, and we'll be discussing different topics like Russia and Ukraine. And no, I'm not at a hotel in my apartment. It's just that that's why Yeah, I'm at my apartment. I forgot to talk. I forgot to talk. It's just that I made the bed, and and I didn't want my bed to be all messed up, which is why it looks like that. It looks better like that. I want to thank everyone for joining me. It's been a month. I mean, I can't believe it's been that long since I did anything on this channel. But also I've been through some shit. I have as we all have. For me, I forgot how to talk. It's I'm doing a lot of that today. Maybe I'm not used to doing this because it's been so long, but yeah, I mean, I haven't been feeling the best either, which is part of the reason why I haven't streamed either. My electricity went out one Friday. The Friday before that, I meant to stream also. My internet went out. So Comcast internet, everyone, so it's shit. So yeah, my guest today is going to be my first guest ever on this show, Joe McGaha. He's one of the co-hosts of a Spanish podcast called why am I blanking out? I forgot the name of his show. I'm sure I'm sure that he'll be very happy with that I forgot the name of his show, even though I'm looking right at it. But two cats in the land of dogs. It's a Spanish speaking podcast, so he'll be on in a few minutes. He told me so. I'm just kind of stalling until he actually gets here, So let me see let me see when he's gonna be on. 20 minutes after. Okay. Oh, thank you. Appreciate the happy Friday. Oh, potential YouTuber. Oh, nice, interesting. Oh, well, yeah. So I'm kind of stalling until my guest gets here, but yeah. What do you guys want me to talk about? It's like let's have a few minutes until my guest gets here. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I know that was yesterday, but I barely used the internet yesterday, so I couldn't really wish anybody a happy Thanksgiving. But yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Yesterday was Thanksgiving, and I had my rice and turkey, arroz con gandules mashed potatoes and potato salad. I can't talk. It's like I mean to say one thing, and I say something completely different. And I had stuffing. I had some wine. I had all the other good stuff. So I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving at least. You didn't have to have a big feast, but hanging out with family. That's all that matters on a day like yesterday. I didn't have a fancy feast either. I just had roasted turkey, rice, gandules, or peas, or let's see, stuffing. It wasn't really a big deal, but yeah, I'm still stalling until my guest gets here. So let's see. I should actually try to talk about something that matters instead of my Thanksgiving, but you know, let's click there. Oh, great. Today's Walmart, Target's, Best Buy. Yeah, I mean, everything's busy. Today's Black Friday. I forgot about that. I mean, today's Black Friday, and I have zero interest in actually doing anything. Oh no, don't worry about it. I mean, to be honest with you guys, I kind of took a painkiller before the before I started this. My shoulder is absolutely killing me, so that's probably why I'm all over the place, speaking like that. But yeah, I mean, good for you, Doctor Nick. I mean, damn. I mean, you must have been good looking. But yeah, I mean, I took a painkiller before the few minutes before, so my shoulder is killing me. So that's why it feels better now. So still stalling until my guest gets here. So talking about now that I'm on painkillers, which is nice. Let's see what else. So me and my guest will be talking about Israel Palestine. Uh, I'm not say Iraq. Russia Ukraine and Javier Milei's victory in Argentina, the libertarian or anarcho-capitalist, as he puts himself, as he calls himself. So, yeah, that's going to be very interesting. And I mean, what do you guys think are the victory in Argentina by the libertarian? Let's say, because if you've seen that dude is like he's Trump, but he's psycho. He's absolutely psycho. So yeah, I mean, he's right wing and or libertarian or an anarcho capitalist as he puts himself as he calls himself. So I'm sure you guys seen the video. You seen that video where he tries to eliminate every government agency program whatever. So uh, here we go. Let me play this real quick. But still kind of stalling here. So actually do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. So there is this is it have English translation to this, so I don't need to actually translate this, but I'm sure everybody seen this. If it's too loud, let me know because he's kind of loud. So the way he yells out and stuff. So let's see. This is him getting rid of all the government agencies or most of them. So let's watch real quick. I'm kind of still stalling. Uh, Oops, it'd be nice if I unmuted the video, huh?
Y deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera. Aunque te resistas. Ministerio de Ciencia y Tecnología e Innovación, afuera. Ministerio de Trabajo, Empleo y Seguridad Social, afuera. Ministerio de Educación, adoctrinamiento, afuera. Ministerio de Transporte, afuera. Ministerio de Salud, afuera. Ministerio de Desarrollo Social, afuera. Se acabó el curro de la política. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
Javier, yes, he does. Let's see. Javier wants to nationalize U.S. dollar, get Argentina off of BRICS. He's pro Bitcoiner, so Argentina maybe copies El Salvador soon enough. Probably more bad than good. I mean, yeah, I mean he wants to use the U.S. dollar as the currency of Argentina. Argentina is going through such a economic just depression or devastation or whatever you want to call it that these people would rather take a chance on some psycho like Javier Milei instead of electing a normal politician. So yes, I don't. I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. We kind of did the same thing in 2016 when we elected Trump. I mean, Americans out of desperation were like, fuck it. This crazy game show host is better than Hillary Clinton. So we kind of did the same thing in 2016. But the difference is Trump isn't as crazy as this dude is. And here's the thing. I'm sure you guys have heard about how libertarians here in the U.S. try and take credit for Milei's victory in Argentina, even though they had nothing to do with it. And libertarians have failed here in the U.S. because, even Trump, even Republicans are like, oh, yeah, social programs, Social Security, Medicare, they're great. I mean, we don't want to cut them. In fact, Trump was the one who kind of expanded a social safety net after COVID with the expanded unemployment benefits, the child tax credit, the expanded Medicaid or Medicare, all that stuff. Trump did that with the yes, there were bad stuff about that bill, like most of the wealth went to the top 1%, but there was some stuff there that was, that was interesting. Argentina pesos is worth nothing. Desperate times influence people to take risky decisions because of failed government leadership and government. Yeah, we did the same thing in 2016. When it's like, fuck it, crazy game show host Trump, make him president, see what happens. So yeah, so let's see. Like, let's make crazy game show host the president. Now my elbow's bothering me. That's weird. So hopefully my guest will be here in 5 minutes. We actually do what the point of the stream is today. He's running a little bit late, so I understand. Shit happens. I was supposed to talk to him 2 weeks ago, but because my internet went out and I had other shit going on, I couldn't get him on the show. So now we've had, actually, was it two? It was 2 weeks ago. I don't remember exact date. It might have been 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, it's a big deal. Apparently, Elon Musk is going to lose $75 million on Twitter by the end of the year. Or X, based on the number of companies that pulled advertising due to Elon Musk. Feels like the inevitable death of this platform. I'm so grateful to the community we built here. Screw Elon Musk. These partisan Democrats are the worst, man. It's like, who cares how much money Elon Musk loses? I mean, honestly, at this point, I don't give a shit as long as, as long as we have. I mean, we can go to Reddit, we can go to as many platforms out there. It's not just Twitter or X. So these Democrats have a personal vendetta against Elon Musk. So obvious. So obvious. We have a personal vendetta. So let's see. Oops. Fucking Twitter will no longer free. Yeah, I mean, Elon Musk has floated the idea of charging new accounts $1 a month just to use Twitter. So he's floated that idea. I don't know how. I had my account since 2009. Yes, I've been on Twitter X a long time, so yeah, it's kind of weird that I'm excuse me. Kind of weird, but you know. Yeah, I mean, they're talking about Elon Musk is talking about charging $1 a month for new accounts. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. He hasn't really talked about it since. So it seems like Elon Musk just floats a bunch of ideas for Twitter or X, which never come to fruition. So yeah, I mean, I'm not paying for Twitter. I'm not paying for X. I have no money to pay for anything. So why do you wait? What? Why you no have the Cristo above your bed? It's a painting of a tiger. I don't know. I mean, that's a painting of a tiger. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm not paying for Twitter. Where are you, Joe? Yeah. Hopefully he'll be on in a couple minutes. He said he'd be on by 7:20, so we'll see. Oh, thank you. I mean, this I got this for my birthday back in August, or my mother got it for me, honestly, because she hated the way my YouTube videos sounded, so I got it for my birthday. Angel, you missed it. Latinos had the crucifix above the bed. Oh, yeah, a lot of Latinos do, but are not really Catholic, so that's why I don't have a crucifix above my bed. So, yeah, let's watch more Javier Milei because he's a psychopath, and I was gonna watch this with my guest, but we'll see.
Porque nosotros no
Oh,
somos
freaking
más que
out.
nuestros representados. En términos financieros es el derivado, el activo derivado nunca vale más que el subyacente. El derivado existe porque existe el subyacente. Nosotros, digamos,
No, no, no. And there's music here, so it's probably a violation of terms of service or copyright, which I don't want to do that. Oh yeah, I mean he's very Trumpian. I mean that's why I compared him to Trump, and I mean he's a straight up psycho. I mean it's like look at his face, like he really believes this stuff. Like he really believes what he's saying. He's not like he's pretending like a normal politician would. Like oh yeah, I'm pro. Hold on a second. Yeah, I'm pro this, and trust me, I want to cut social programs, and I want to do. Please, like, let me cut your social programs, okay? If I'm elected, which I never actually do because most Americans are against it, and and all that other stuff. But yeah, please, I'll cut social programs. Trust me, vote for me. This is the whole Obama thing, when he's a trained politician. Instead of doing this, they do a lot of this. So yeah, so trained politician Obama, but this guy's definitely no trained politician. And by the way, just tweeting. Look who the Libertarian Party of the US is tweeting this. America's third largest political party. We support peace, civil liberties, and free markets. I like the idea of peace. I like the idea of civil liberties, but free markets. I mean, we already have free markets. And it's not really working. So yeah. So it's absolutely absurd to think that yeah. I mean, just absolutely absurd that the Libertarian Party is still trying to take credit for Javier Milei's victory. But I think Tucker Carlson may have interviewed him as well. A lot of right wing people here in the U.S. Did the interview. So my guest is here. So give me a minute.
Hey, Angel.
Hey,
Sorry I'm late.
no, it's all good.
Awesome.
I mean, I was just stalling until you got here, so it's all good.
I appreciate that. ¿Cómo está
Well,
todo?
lady, oh, good, good. Todo bien, todo bien.
Good, good, good. Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Well, this is Joe McGaha. This is my guest tonight, and he's a host of Two Cats in the Land of Dogs. You can say in Spanish if you want. And I was on his show a month ago, and we had a very interesting conversation about a lot of good stuff. And I expect to have the same today, or at least try to. So you can talk about yourself a little bit, Joe, and why you did the show and what your show about, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, yeah, the show in Spanish is called Dos Gatos en Tierra de Perros. It's me and Fernando Gerard, who's a 3D artist. Both of us were born in Madrid, which is why we call ourselves Gatos, because people born in Madrid are called Gatos, cats.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so we say two cats in the land of dogs because even though we're both American, I'm American. My parents are American, but I was born in Spain. His father was American. Sometimes we feel more Spanish than American when we're here. because we'll walk around down the street or do anything, or even posting stuff on social networks, and you
Hmm.
feel like they attack you just because you're a cat. It's like the dogs see you and they attack you,
Right.
and so we decided to do a show about politics because we were talking about American politics almost every night. We'd have
Hmm.
hour-long conversations, and I didn't know, but his wife, who's from Russia, was listening.
Oh,
She said, you need to do a podcast. So, and I had been into the podcast a lot, but I knew there wasn't really one about American politics in Spanish. There's a lot about Spanish politics in Spanish,
yeah.
so it's kind of a niche thing. The last 3 episodes we've covered Mexican politics a lot, the elections and what's coming up, which was interesting. I got some positive and negative feedback. Some people felt that I was kind of giving López Obrador a fluff piece. So I got somebody from the opposition last week who actually gave me a different opinion about it. There are a lot
Okay.
of people who are unhappy. And I really am not super familiar with Mexican politics, so that was a learning experience.
Yeah.
For me. So, but yeah, we're on YouTube. We're on iVoox, which is a Spanish platform, but you can also find us on Google Podcasts and pretty much all the ones because they'll stream through iVoox. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, all your links are in the description box below anyway, so it'll all be there. So, yeah, I mean, I've been kind of stalling. We've been talking about Javier Milei's victory in Argentina. I'm sure you heard about that.
Yeah.
And everybody is kind of shocked by that. Is like, really, this guy won? He's Trumpian, but he's like more psychotic. I mean, especially if you see in his interviews, he's like this, and like
Well,
he
yeah,
really believes what he's saying.
theatrical. Yeah, he's theatrical, but he's not crazy, nor is he stupid.
He's not stupid.
He's well educated, and he's doing this for theatrics. Just like Trump does. It's
Yeah.
get attention, and honestly, Argentina needs a change. Argentina has been there over 100% inflation for years, and the Kirchner, Cristina, they weren't helping the country. There's a lot of corruption down there.
Yeah.
Just like there is everywhere, just like there is here.
Yeah.
So I think no matter what, a change is good. Like Sheryl Crow would say.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
never know. I mean, even I don't think he can make things much worse. I don't think he's going to be Hitler and lining people up or any of that or taking away
No.
people's freedoms. I think he's just dramatic, and there will probably be a lot of screaming and yelling, just like there was with Trump, and
Yeah.
that'll be it. But
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, he's not he looks crazy. I don't think he is. I mean, maybe crazy like a fox, but yeah, I mean, but he's not stupid. I mean, this guy is definitely, he has his opinion, he believes it. Like I was saying before you came on, he's like we here in 2016 took a chance with Trump. Most Americans are like, I hate him. No way Hillary Clinton can be president. So let me elect Donald Trump. Let's take a chance with a game show host, a crazy game show host, see what happens. Can't get any worse, right? So that's the attitude a lot of Argentinians had. Like, yeah, let's put in Milei and see what happens, It
yeah,
can't get worse,
exactly. And much like here, we most of the public, I think, is tired of Washington insiders, and so an outsider is welcome. And same down there, it's always the same people. And they don't give straight answers. He gives straight answers. You might not like his answers.
No.
But he's going to give a straight answer. He's not going to. If you ask him a question, he's not going to tell a story about a guy that he met on the street and blah 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 and go around in circles and then never.
That bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how you'd say, like polities or whatever. Basically political talk where you go around and around in circles and you don't really ever directly answer the question, even if it's a yes or no question. Do you oppose this, or are you for this? Well, I appeal to both sides, and
Thank you for the question, but I'm not going to answer it. I'm just going to go around in circles and then move on.
Exactly.
No follow-up question, please.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. If you do follow up, then I'll just ignore you, kick you out.
Yeah.
That's what U.S. politicians do.
Exactly. Or they have,
especially with America, when they hold those town halls. I mean, you ask one question, They'll won't answer it. They'll go around it, and then if you try to follow up, they just kick you out.
Yeah, they cut the mic and you're out of there,
Yeah.
and the questions are all pre-screened and everything. A
Oh
good
yeah.
a good debate. There's a show in England called BBC Question Time. Have you watched that show?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, that is a little bit more open because they do actually take questions from the audience and they don't pre-screen them. They'll say, "We have a question over here. We have a question over there," and people will yell at their politicians and they'll say, "You're lying. You promised this. You promised that, and you haven't delivered anything. And now we're broke. What are you going to do about it?" And of course, the politicians will still give their feedback, which is always BS.
Yeah,
It's a little bit more holding their feet to the fire, which we don't do at all here. We're just like, "Oh, you guys are great."
yeah. Unfortunately, most Americans are pretty passive when it comes down to politics.
Yeah.
They've also worshipped their politicians. I mean, both from the right and the left. I'm not saying just the right do it. The left also does it a lot with the squad. Like AOC can do no wrong for these people. I mean, even though she's done plenty of wrong, but to these liberals, they love her. She's like a second coming of Christ. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's like when she voted for all this horrible stuff, the Russia Ukraine funding. She voted for Israel's Iron Dome. She voted for, and then she turns around and cries about it. Remember that whole incident, Nancy Pelosi, when she yelled at her and she cried to her friends like in Congress, and then she changed her vote to president or something. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, it's hilarious. Basically, she was supposed to be the great new hope and the progressive. The whole squad is basically the fraud squad because they're not
Yeah,
making
100%.
any
Hmm.
real change. They're great at theatrical stuff, showing up at the border and crying, or doing
Okay.
different things to
Yeah.
shut people down. Or now, all of this video is coming out about January 6th, and it turns out that it wasn't all crazy people busting in and tearing things up. There were actually people getting guided tours and walking through, and that even included the shaman who ended up being convicted, but then they ended up letting him go, and they're going to let go, I think, a lot more people now that this is coming out.
Yeah. The January 6th congressional committee, they all lied, and they know they lied because they seen the tapes. They seen the tapes. They got depositions from everybody, all the Trump administration or former Trump administration, and they know it was nonsense. They went with it anyway to try to stop Trump. It didn't work. I mean, he's still leading in the polls. He's going to probably be president again, but I mean, it was just they lied. Every single one of those politicians on that, they knew that January 6th wasn't what they said it was, or the media, even the media, and they nothing because it's all about Trump. Let's stop Trump, and then let's worry about everything else. They act like Trump is the next Hitler or his Hitler. I mean, it's absurd. This guy is literally just a standard Republican, except or he expanded social programs during the pandemic, at least, which is something that nobody wants to talk about on the Democratic side. Because as soon as Biden became president, what happened? He cut all those programs. Every single last of those programs. Oh, he lied about the stimulus checks. Instead of giving us 2,000, he gave us 1,400.
Yeah,
So he
and
stiffed me at
I
six
never
hundred
even
dollars.
last
So
one.
yeah.
Yeah, I never even got the last one, and they were saying it was going out to everybody. But yeah, basically, also another thing, Trump was the first president since Jimmy Carter not to start a new war. He
Oh
did have
yeah. Hmm.
wars, but he had the plan to pull out of Afghanistan, and of course, Biden wanted to do it early to get some points, and it was
Hmm.
a disaster. People,
Yeah.
it was brutal, and a lot of people who were our allies who risked their necks for us basically lost everything, and they were showing people getting shot in the streets, and we left Americans behind. We left people that had helped us,
Hmm.
um, and billions in weapons.
Hmm.
They still
We
ended up on the black market. I'm sure they're all over Africa, all over Latin America. Even weapons that were sent to Ukraine have been found with the narcos in Mexico. So,
Yes.
you know,
The Ukrainians are like, oh, we don't need these weapons. Let's just sell it to the narcos in Mexico. Like,
hey,
good. Yeah, let's make money. And
yeah,
also, some of their weapons ended up with Hamas in Palestine.
yes,
If
yeah,
if you know about that. So yeah, I mean, the Biden administration is absolutely disastrous. I mean, it's like, Oh yeah, it's like their withdrawal from Afghanistan. It reminded me of Richard Nixon's withdrawal from Afghanistan. I mean,
Yeah, hanging off the planes.
Vietnam. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I'm very similar.
yeah.
So I was like, damn, that's Richard Nixon's Vietnam, and he'd barely been president a year at that point.
Yeah.
So not good.
No, yeah. And then, it's, I just don't think that Biden's going to make it to the election, though. I think it sounds like they're pushing in Newsom. It's not going to be Kamala.
No,
Nobody
zero
liked
chance.
her even beforehand. Newsom is kind of trying to wedge himself in there, but he's also not popular with progressives or the
No.
far right or the far left. And we see through his BS. We see how every city in California is a mess. If you see San Francisco, heroin addicts all over, and fentanyl addicts all over the street.
Yeah.
People are moving out in droves, and that's what's going to become of America if he becomes president. I think, I don't know. He's such a liar, basically, but he'll say whatever it takes to get.
Yeah, and I think I said this on your podcast like a month ago. They're going to set up Newsom. They're going to try to stick him in there if Biden is unable to go. Excuse me. He's unable to go. I said this on your podcast. And if I remember correctly, I said something to the effect of, oh, well, but if by the convention Biden's not doing well, they just force him out and put in Newsom and not any votes, because they know Gavin Newsom probably is not going to win the nomination because he's pretty unpopular in California. He was recalled in California, just your state,
Yeah.
Ultimately, he won, but he's recalled. That's not good for a politician, that's supposedly popular, and could become president. Oh yeah, his home state recalled him. That's how bad he was. And if the Republicans didn't nominate Larry Elder, maybe they could have been a Republican governor in California.
Yeah, but they wouldn't even let Elder into the debates, which was kind of ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
But Elder, I don't know. I like Elder a lot more. It's funny because I started out as one of those dyed-in-the-wool Democrats.
yeah. So did I.
Bernie that I kind of was like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I got into Bernie was because I lost everything in the economic decline of 2008. I had a marketing job. I had a home. It's like a country song. I lost my wife. I lost my home. I lost my job. I lost my cat, my mother.
Yeah.
It all just slowly chipped away.
I lost everything too, so I understand.
Yeah, and it was all because of speculation, basically gambling on the housing market, and nobody was held accountable. Nobody went to jail. Lives were ruined. Industries were ruined. The economy was ruined, and we bailed out banks. And banks were foreclosing on even active military, which they weren't supposed to do. They were putting them out into the streets,
And the administration let them get away with it. Obama administration.
Yeah, because Obama was owned by Goldman Sachs, which, if I had known that from the beginning, I wouldn't have voted for him. But
neither would I. Trust me. The only reason why I started my Twitter was support Obama. And this is back in 2009. That's how long, or 2008. That's how long I've been on Twitter.
Yeah.
But Obama, they should have bailed out homeowners. It's like, oh yeah, all that money, give it to the homeowners and shut down the banks, or get rid of Wall Street speculation. Did none of that. Oh yeah, Dodd-Frank did some things, some good things, but eventually that was all repealed, when nobody was looking. So this happening again, but this time, it's going to be a crash at some point. I can't tell you when, but it's going to be a crash again.
Yeah, there's a woman I follow, Danielle DiMartino Booth. She was with the Fed back in 2008 in Dallas, and she's predicting a crash. She's saying it's going to be worse than 2008, 2009. It's going to be more like the 1930s. And as you see, basically all markets are dumping their assets. Buildings, commercial real estate has been crashing. They're dropping prices. Car sales, everything, and people can't afford the inflation. It's not even, because people were still getting assistance checks from the government for the pandemic. That's starting to come to an end, and people have been living off of credit. They're not giving out credit anymore. We're not getting loans or anything like that. So it's about to get really bad for a lot of people.
the reason why commercial real estate is crashing because everybody wants to work from home.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to go into the office anymore, especially now the internet connections and the high speed. Nobody wants to go into the office. So all these companies who bought or rented like this expensive commercial real estate, they're screwed. They got nobody wants to come in anymore. Nobody wants to do anything. They want to stay home. And I don't blame them. If I can work from home, I would do it too. I mean, I don't want to drive an hour out of my way to the office or half an hour out of my way. And the reason why I say an hour because most commercial real estate are in the big cities, which is very expensive. I don't want to have to drive an hour. So
Yeah.
that's why I'd rather stay my ass home on my Chromebook and do all my work here. So and it's you're able to do it. It's possible. It's just that these corporations want to use their expensive office space.
Yeah, I was pushing it before the pandemic. I always pushed. I said, I can do everything I do. I could do from home, and they were like, "Yeah, that's never going to happen." Of course, then the pandemic kicks in, and the technology's there. The technology ramped up super quick as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything. Most of what you do now, we have electronic signatures, so we don't even have to get that. Um,
Uh-huh.
if anything needs to be mailed, there can be one person in the office that basically handles the mail and receives the mail, sends out the mail. But even then, it could be a post office box, and somebody could come pick it up and bring it to their home and process it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a lot of wasted money with commercial real estate, and a lot of these buildings are selling for a third of their value because of it, because they're empty. They're completely empty in the big cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very expensive to maintain. So these corporate get your ass back to the office. I mean, I don't care what it takes. Get back in there. Get to work. So that's
Yeah, and the cities have gotten more dangerous. I work in downtown LA, and it was dangerous when I started uh,
hmm
10 years ago, but it's even more dangerous now. A friend of mine who lives in Long Beach and that takes the metro out to downtown LA, she just sent me an article about a guy who was attacked by 30 teenagers, and they ripped off his laptop and his earbuds and everything.
Oh wow.
They just walked up to him and started beating on him, and he gave it up and ran as fast as he could to get out of there, because you have no defense. I mean, no matter how small they are, 30 of them
Yeah.
get it.
No.
Yeah.
They'll gang up on you and steal all your shit. But yeah, I mean, all the big cities are much more dangerous now. New York, Chicago, LA, Philadelphia. That's a big one. I mean, I live near Philadelphia
Yeah,
and
the homeless people. We have record numbers of homeless people, and Mayor Bass just put a bunch of people, just housed a bunch of them, but the numbers are still just going through the roof. People are coming here. People always come to California and Florida because of the homeless people, because of the weather, because it's rough to sleep outside where you live. I'm sure
oh
if
god, yeah.
yeah.
Especially in the third right now it's 38 degrees outside and it's cold out here. So yeah, so lots of there's some homeless here, but it's most of them end up in shelters. So because it's so cold here, they leave people outside, they probably die. So or they will die because it's so cold. But yeah, I mean, the homeless crisis in New York, Chicago, LA, Houston, Dallas. I mean, all the big cities is just horrible. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, just leave them out there. I think Gavin Newsom recently had Xi Jinping of China in LA. And what did they do? They got rid of all the homeless, or San Francisco, one of those
Yeah,
two
he
cities.
got rid of the homeless in San Francisco, but
Yeah,
also
San Francisco.
down to LA, because we had a huge fire under the 10 freeway, which is our major hub in
Yeah, I
downtown.
saw that.
And that was the homeless that lit the fire, of course, because they get cold. It gets cold at
Hmm.
night here too.
Yeah,
And I read somewhere that 70% of the calls for fires in downtown LA are caused by homeless people because they're cold, and
yeah,
they're lighting stuff on fire to stay warm. But they never address the issue. They don't address mental health. Uh,
no.
Ronald Reagan basically emptied out the mental hospitals back in the 80s and
Hmm.
flooded our streets with homeless people who can't function in society. They belong in a hospital. And then on top of that, you have veterans who have PTSD and come back and they can't fit into society, and they end up in that situation as well. It's really
Yeah,
sad. And I mean, those are people that gave their lives, or gave the majority of their life for our
yeah.
country, and this is how we treat them. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
that's like the worst part. I mean, we ask these veterans to go. I mean, these military guys to go fight in ridiculous wars for us, or not we necessarily, the government asked them, and they do it. They do it for the benefits. They do it for whatever, the money, or to serve the country even. And what do we do when they get back? Nothing. The VA is severely underfunded, so the VA can do very little for these people, and even it takes a while to get the either it takes a while to get the needs that they, or the services that they need, or they don't do it at all because
Mm,
they're so underfunded. Like the VA, I mean, the Republicans trying to destroy the VA for years, even though they're the ones more war hawkish than anybody else. Democrats are too, but the Republicans are more famous for that, and nobody funds the VA. So the VA doesn't can't do much, and military guys or girls end up on the street, unfortunately, and they have health issues, they have mental health issues, and they commit crimes, and it's a vicious circle. So yeah, I mean, if we fund the VA properly, I mean, none of this really is a problem, at least for the servicemen.
And the VA only services states, so territories like your family's homeland, Puerto Rico, or
Hmm.
um, Guam, for that matter. Like people in Guam can't get service from the VA; they have to fly to Hawaii, and people from Puerto
Oh
Rico
wow.
have to
Yeah.
fly to Florida because
Yeah.
they don't have services for them on the island. And of course, most of these people are very low income people, so it's not like they can afford it either. It's terrible. It's a crime against the people who have served this country the most. Given everything.
Yeah, it's just awful, and just back in 2004, I was 18 years old, and I graduated high school, and I remember this is right the height of the Iraq War, one of, like, when the Iraq War was in its height, and this military recruiter, every day I got home from work, or walking home from work, or I swear this guy would drive around asking me, a military recruiter, you want to join the military? Here, you don't have nothing anyways. So it's like, yeah, I have a job, but like, piss off, man. I don't want to do with the Iraq war, so yeah, so I get it. It's like the military recruitment's way down, because nobody wants to join the military. They're talking about redoing the draft, and I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. Nobody's going to be in favor of that. Like,
Yeah.
some people in Washington, like, oh yeah, let's just bring back the draft. Yeah, that's not going to work. Nobody's going to be in favor of that. I mean, the
You
only
know,
people that are in favor of that is Washington, but yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
But then Washington also is the one that really they vote in a lot of stuff that the people don't necessarily agree with, and also they can justify it by saying, "Hey, all these people are out of work and there are less jobs than ever.
Uh-huh.
We're giving
Yeah.
them jobs, and futures." They always promise a college education, and we're going to teach you a skill, and then they get back
Hmm.
and they're like,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, yeah, I think I'm gonna re-up because I can't
Yeah.
find it here, Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The VA is underfunded, and we have no jobs for you coming back home. So,
Mhm.
sign up again, please.
Yeah, and
So it's
a guy with
convenient.
PTSD coming back and then becoming a cop, somebody triggers
Uh huh.
him and pulls out his gun or whatever, you never
Yeah.
know. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've been in combat, sometimes it's just crazy. I haven't been in combat, but I did live in Israel for a year, full
Yeah.
disclosure. Uh,
Okay.
and I was in Spain during the attempted coup of 1981. I think I sent you that link of I did an interview with the BBC not too long ago about that. It was a crazy time. I was a teenager
Oh.
at the time, but it was
Oh wow.
they locked down everything. That was a real coup. That was much different than
Yeah.
October or January 6th. That
Oh,
was,
yeah.
they took over the radio stations, the TV stations. There were tanks running through the streets. They were arresting people. They took over the Congress. None of that happened here. None of that. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was even in danger of really being hurt. So,
Like, and the Democrats were like, "Oh, they took over." The shaman was in Nancy Pelosi's office and put her feet up on her desk. How dare he? Right? Deserve 20 years in prison. Right? Come
right.
on, it's absurd. And talking about Israel, I mean, what do you think of the current developments? Because because you lived in Israel for a year, as you said. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts about what's going on right now in Israel.
Well, one thing, I have a few friends from the military in Israel, and I also have friends from the military in Europe, mostly from Spain, but they're also very tight with Israel. Israeli military trains the militaries in other countries
Hmm.
as well. And they're all giving me the same line, which makes me think it's BS because it's just too pat. Because I said, isn't it strange that Gaza, the most observed area on the planet, right next to the most secure country on the planet, was able to bust through when normally Gaza, you walk 20 paces and you're going to run into a soldier with a gun. All of a sudden, they were able to go break through hand gliders and trucks and do this. And there was a warning from Egypt. There was also,
Yes.
they had gotten word of a training camp in Gaza. So they knew what was happening. A lot of people are thinking, and I'm thinking possibly, I don't know, but I'm thinking maybe they sacrificed these people in order to justify going in, blowing the place up. Because for one thing, it was a tinderbox that was going to explode sooner or later. But also, I hear there's a gas pipeline or that
Yes,
that
I
through.
heard that too.
Yeah. So I think, and this is terrible, but I think that maybe the higher ups thought that these people that were attacked were expendable in order to give the excuse, just like the false flags that have started so many American wars, often at least the last 100 years, all of the wars have been started based on a lie, and I think that this really happened. I know this really happened. And I know that innocent people were murdered and innocent people were tortured. Babies were killed. Families were murdered. Families were kidnapped. But I have a hard time believing, because what the military, both in Israel and in Europe, is telling me, my friends who are in the military are, they just got careless. And I don't buy it. It's like, the Godfather said, and he said, women and children can afford to be careless. Men cannot.
Yeah. Love that movie, Godfather. Actually, the first two. The third one was like, but the first two are really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Yeah.
So yeah, you brought up the possible false flag in Israel. I'm like, the same thing we did in 9/11. Our government did, at least. It's like the Bush administration got two warnings, one in like May and the other one in August. Like that August 6th one we know about. Bin Laden determined to strike in the U.S. What did the Bush administration do? Nothing. It was like, well, let's see what happens. And a month later, he struck with airplanes and crashing him into planes. So yeah, or buildings. I mean, the CIA knew what was going to happen, and the Bush administration, like, maybe we'll see. Hopefully, they will attack us so we can justify all our wars and stuff in the Middle East.
Hopefully, you don't hear that alarm that I have going off. I'm going to turn it off real quick.
Okay, yeah, I did hear that. I thought it was my phone.
I'll just have my phone closed in case it goes off again. I have periodic alarms that go off throughout the day, just to remind me of little things I have to do. But sorry about that. Yeah, it's I think that and everybody is siding with one side or another side. I stand with Israel or I stand with Palestine. I stand with the people. I don't trust any government, because governments are corrupt and all governments have the blood of innocent people on their hands. So you can say, yes, there have been, neither one is innocent. Neither side is innocent. Neither side is 100% innocent. Neither side is 100% guilty. It's terrible what the Israelis have done to the Palestinians. It's terrible what the Palestinians have done, because as well. I mean, what happened on October. I keep January 6th. It's you don't justify crime against humanity with another crime against humanity. They're all wrong, and you can never say, well, it's not the schoolyard. He started it. It doesn't matter. And I don't believe in the sins of the father carrying down to the sins of the son, because, my grandfather was kind of wild and did some things that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't want to take the blame for that. And all of our ancestors, I'm sure we've all had murderers in our family at one time or another.
Oh yeah.
I think that rather than focus on the past, because Israel's not going away. They're never leaving. Palestinians aren't going away. They're never leaving either, if they have anything. So we need to find a solution and that doesn't please either side because they do want to get rid of each other. They hold grudges. They
Yep.
remember everybody in Israel knows somebody who's been murdered by a Palestinian. Everybody in Gaza or in the West Bank in Palestine knows somebody who's been murdered by an Israeli. And it's a sad thing. Godfather 3 should never have been made. It's an abomination. Yes, read Dr. Nick Riviera.
Yeah. I saw I had to feature that because it's like, yeah, it was awful. But yeah, I mean, that war, I mean, I know some people talk about it. Israel shouldn't be a state and should wiped off the map. I'm like, no. Yeah, I mean, you can make that argument, but that's I'm not. I don't like. Yeah, they're not going away. I mean, even if the UN says, "Oh yeah, now Palestine is a state and not Israel," they're not going away. They're not going away. And on top of that, this fight, whatever, been going on long before any of us were born. I mean, when the Arabs took over Jerusalem, like hundreds of years ago, they've been there, and now the UN decided to make Israel into a state, and then all the Jews started moving back and trying to take territory. I mean, this war is not going to end anytime soon, unfortunately, and a lot more people are going to die because this war is about religion and God and whose God has the bigger cock. And so yeah, it's like, let's compare penis sizes of our gods. Oh, my God's better. No, my God's better. And like, this war is not going to end. I'm sorry. I mean, people who say this war is going to end one day, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, let's get a peace deal in there. How? I mean, both sides hate each other. I mean, they're not going to agree to anything.
Yeah, they can figure it out on a temporary or semi-temporary basis, kind of like what they did with Ireland and England. There used to be the Troubles, and there's
Uh-huh.
people that are very angry at England. And in Spain, they have La ETA, which is the Basque separatists, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and they also have the Catalan separatists. There are a lot of people. There are people in the United States that want to secede from the Union too. Still,
Yeah.
back to the Civil War. The South will rise again, they say, but it hasn't so far. I think everything is holding on to grudges and holding on to stuff that happened before any of us was born. And if we really get down to it, we're not giving up the United States, even though we stole the land. Uh,
Yeah.
we're not leaving. We're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if Native Americans went off the reservation and just started slaughtering people, well, for one thing, they'd get cut down by the federal government pretty quick. But
Mm-hmm.
another thing, I don't think anybody would feel sorry for them, even though they're struggling and living in poverty and dealing with treaties that have been broken, going all the way back. Still, if you hear about somebody killing a baby, killing a woman, and defenseless civilians, that doesn't look good. Even if Holocaust people in the Holocaust did that, they would not. I don't think people would feel bad if for the Holocaust survivors if they went out and just started slaughtering innocent civilians, killing babies. Especially, all of us hold children dear,
Yeah.
and it used to be women and children,
Mm-hmm.
and in Israel, there's the draft, which includes women. They have to fight in the army as well. But still, I think that's a value that we've lost that we need. We need to hold life dear, and that's something that like jihadists don't have either because they think they're going to heaven, so they're not afraid to die because
Yeah.
they're going to heaven. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, life is precious and it's being lost in too many places, and people think they're dying for a huge cause and they're just dying. I
Yep.
met years ago, I met a guy. I had a friend that was a captain in the U.S. Army, and he
Mm-hmm.
introduced me to one of his best friends. And the first thing the guy said to me as he shook my hand was, "Don't ever believe there's no glory in death." I was like, "I ain't dying. You go on with your bad self."
Yeah. I mean, people buy into that propaganda. It's like, oh yeah, death. There is an honorable death. Like in the military. Here's people in the military, and it's like you just died. I mean, yeah, I get it. When the families of these service members die, it's like they're trying to justify it. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, at least my son died an honorable death, and I'm like, yeah, but he still died. You don't have your son. So it's terrible. It's a horrible situation, and all these wars, they're just not, they're not worth it. And the United States continue fighting them because it's an empire, and they see themselves that way, and they will continue to sacrifice the people that live here because a lot of us are poor and struggling, and see the military as the only way out, which is why I don't see Washington changing anything anytime soon, because it's like, oh yeah, I mean, we need people, and in order to get people to fight for us, we need to have things be so dire and desperate here at home that they're willing to go to a foreign country to fight for us and die, but at least their children will get military benefits for life. That's the attitude a lot of Americans have because things are desperate.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and I mean they're even more desperate in the third world. In the third, in
Yeah.
you're not supposed to say the third world because there's only one world, but I mean I still use old European terms. But basically, you go to some parts of Africa or Latin America, and people will sell their daughters into prostitution because they're starving and they literally need it to survive. It's a terrible choice, but they'll literally give up their daughters to traffickers, and if confronted about that, they're just like, well, what was I supposed to do? We could all die, or she could die, and I guess that was the mentality probably here, maybe 100 or 200 years ago too. But we've kind of modernized where we're like, no, there's nobody expendable. Sorry.
Yeah.
That should be the last one.
Okay, well, I mean, it's fine. The United States, I mean, that you talked about it earlier, but the U.S., we stole the land from Native Americans, and then later we stole a bunch of land from Mexico because Arizona, California, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, a bunch of those states belong to Mexico. Until the Mexican American War, we won the war, and then we just annexed all their land. So it's like, yeah. So the United States entirely stolen land, but we're not going anywhere, as you said. So
yeah. I mean, and it's funny because Mexicans come here, and I've even asked some of my Mexican friends down in Mexico, even on the show, if when they come up here, if they consider that they're still within their territory, because they call it Aztlan, which is like the ancient term for the Aztec Empire that went all the way up. And I mean, I used to joke that they're reconquering the country.
I made that joke too. They're taking back their old territory.
Yeah, it used to be. I mean, I'm a lot older than you. I was in New York in the 80s, and you didn't see Mexicans. You saw Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Cubans. Now there's lots of Mexicans, and I've seen Mexicans even up in Minnesota. And I'm like, ¿cómo llegaste aquí? How did you get up here? This is closer to the Canadian border than it is to the Mexican border. But they're like, they're everywhere, and they have more children than anybody else. And then I'm fine with it. I love the food. I love the culture. So it would be great. Just as long as the economy doesn't go the way Mexico has gone. I think ultimately there's a lot of benefits, and we can't survive without Mexico, and Mexico can't survive without us. We're cousins. So
Yep. Even though conservatives are desperate to keep Mexicans out, Trump started building the wall, and guess who continued building the wall? Joe Biden. Even though the Democrats started talking about how racist the wall was automatically because you were building it, all of a sudden Joe Biden's building it because we have migrant crisis. Everybody's trying to get in the country. So what the administration's doing is admitting, at least this is perception, admitting that Trump was right and that we needed a border wall. So it's just, terrible politics. It's terrible policy. Nothing is good about that wall. But Biden continued building it because he thinks his help with his reelection bid next year.
Yeah. And basically his politics of bringing in asylum seekers from Venezuela has kind of backfired on him, bit him in the butt, say, which is what happened to Jimmy Carter with the Marielitos. He's like, anybody from Cuba wants to come over, we will welcome you with open arms. And then Fidel Castro was like, okay, let's empty out our prisons of all the rapists.
Yeah.
Here you go. You can. It's funny because, I mean, I remember when I was 18 and 19, I was in Israel, and I was telling my girlfriend at the time, because she was like, Fidel Castro is terrible. And I said, well, he's thinking about his own country. Basically, for his country, that's a good move to get rid of all the criminals, just send them all elsewhere, and I mean, they wreaked havoc. I mean, if you know all the murders and things that happened with the Marielitos, they were very violent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick Rivera.
Yeah, it's a boss move.
Yeah.
He's like, Castro is basically like, oh, so gringos quiere a todos los cubanos? Okay, just hand them all the criminals. Oh,
Toma.
well, it's
Yeah.
like, oops. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we didn't actually mean the criminals. We just meant normal people. But here, criminals, Oh,
Yeah.
good luck to you, all horrible criminals.
And I mean, we're involved in all that anyway, and
Mhm.
not so much in Cuba, of course, because we haven't been, working with the organized crime in Cuba like we have in Mexico, but we work with the narco traffickers in Mexico. The CIA has had a constant hand over there. In fact, we was one of our agents that was the one that gave the order and was there when Kiki Camarena was murdered, according to a documentary that's on
Yeah.
Amazon. Which I believe because they talked to people that were there, and basically everybody thought that they killed Kiki Camarena because of burning down Rancho Buffalo, which is the biggest marijuana farm in the area that the narcos own, but also because he froze the narcos bank accounts. But really, it was a CIA agent when the recordings came out, and it was a Cuban who
Yeah.
did. So yeah, it's all, we have our fingers everywhere. We're like everybody's pervert uncle, I guess you say.
Yeah, I mean, it's the U.S. is in the U.S. has to be in everybody's business. I mean, we're the world's police, according to people. So it's like some people. So yeah, unfortunately, there's no money for us. All the money goes to Israel and Ukraine and
Well, there's
the
money
defense
for our
contractors.
politicians. I mean,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
there's no money for the people. But when we went into Iraq, most wars we only get involved in if there's minerals, if there's oil, if there's something we
Mhm.
can extract from it. There was tons of money to be made in the Iraq War, and they made it. Cheney and Bush made millions, or probably billions at this point. Uh,
Uh-huh.
we don't, and we say we're bringing freedom. And well, if you look at what's going on in Iraq now, and we didn't bring freedom to any of those places. We left them in rubble and ash, but we took all their stuff, and I mean, that's another reason that people like Trump, because he's like, hey, well, the oil's there and we took the oil. He's honest, I mean, he's an honest crook, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, which is why Washington hates Trump. Is like he's too honest. Is like, oh, we went into Iraq for the oil and for the poppy seeds. I mean, our military is guarding the poppy seeds in Iraq. So it's like, yeah,
Afghanistan. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like, oh, Afghanistan. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, it's like, why are we guarding poppy fields? Because it's about the natural resources and stuff. I think this, I assume, but talking about Iraq, Dick Cheney was the CEO of Halliburton. He got like $30 million bonus when he left. I'm
Mhm.
like, right before he became vice president, I'm like, why did they give him $30 million? Because they knew he was going to start all these wars and they would make so much more money. So they gave him 30 million bucks up front just to say, hey, go start these wars for us as vice president, because Bush is a moron. He'll let you whatever you want. So you're actually president, not Bush. So it's like, yeah. So we all know why, he got that bonus and he did his job. Halliburton made billions
Oh
of
yeah, and
dollars.
if you look at what mercenaries that worked for Halliburton, or was it
Mhm.
BlackRock? I always get confused between
BlackRock.
BlackRock and Blackstone.
Mhm.
BlackRock, the mercenaries that went out there made like 120K a year, while our average soldier was making about 25K a year. How the hell
Mhm.
is that okay? And then they hired truck drivers that were also making over $100,000 a year, but it was a very dangerous route, and a lot of them died. A lot of them saw
Yeah.
crazy stuff, But it's like, when you can make that much money, you're going to take that risk,
Yeah.
But
It's tempting.
yeah,
Especially with all the money and so like, I mean, $100,000 a lot of money. I mean, it's like, so you take that risk, but yeah, a lot of them died unfortunately because they took that risk. But yeah, I mean, uh, and on top of that, a lot of these politicians in Washington are invested in these defense contractors because they're allowed to invest their money and like Nancy Pelosi does this all the time with her husband is like, oh, Microsoft is getting a multi-billion-dollar contract from the military. Okay, buy a bunch of Microsoft stock now, so we can get that extra money later. But yeah, I mean that's insider trading. We
Yeah.
do it, we get in trouble. The politicians do it, they get
Yeah.
away with it. It's fine.
Yeah. They love to use their spouses. Like John Kerry was like, I never had a private plane. Well, your wife did. Well, yeah, that's my wife. That's the
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
time.
so semantics. It's like you still had the private plane. Yeah, it's your wife, but you still used it. It wasn't like, and you still owned it.
Yeah.
Because usually in a marriage it's 50-50. So if she owns something, you own it too. So like
Community property, yeah. And then you look at, I mean, the case of Hunter Biden's laptop, and not even the laptop, which that's the Democrats were trying to always spin that was about sex and that we were all fascinated with his sex life. No, we were fascinated with the fact that he was making tons of money off of access to his father, and it's like that's the corruption. That's what's concerning. Why was he making millions of dollars in a job that he wasn't even qualified for, because he gave him access to the big guy, and 10% for the big guy.
Energy executive for a Ukraine oil company. I'm like, this dude barely has an education, and somehow he gets a 6-figure job per year doing that when he has no experience in the industry. Yeah. And on top of that, the whole 15% for the big guy. Like, who's the big guy? So it's obvious it's Joe Biden. It's he's selling access to then the vice president, now the president. So yeah, I mean, these China, Ukraine, all over the world, influence peddling. That's what it's called. And I forgot the term. And yeah, Hunter Biden was the master at that. It's like, hey, if you give me money, I'll give you access to my dad, who was the vice president then, and now he's the president. But I'm not sure how much influence peddling he's doing now since he's under investigation. But
it sounds like he's just kind of chilling, maybe bringing a little cocaine into the White House every so often.
Yeah, it's like, hey,
cocaine in the country, and they don't know who brought that cocaine in.
And the Secret Service dropped the investigation.
Yes.
Like, oh, we don't know who brought it in, and we're not going to bother looking at the cameras in the White House, one of the most secure buildings in the world. We're not going to do that. I mean, just drop it.
Yeah.
Just drop the investigation. Nobody would notice.
Yeah. Just
obviously it was Hunter's. I mean, that's why they dropped it, to me at least.
Yeah. And beyond that, they let a lot of charges against him lapse because of the time.
Statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations. Thank you. Now I'm having trouble. In Spanish too. I'll be talking to my buddies, and they'll say, "¿Cuál es la palabra que buscan?" I'm like, "Tú eres el español. What am I looking for?" I'm like, "You're the Spaniard. You tell me what word you're looking for."
Yeah.
But it's the statute of limitations ran out, and Weiss did that because he was I don't know if you'd call it a lame duck. He was not a true prosecutor. He was just there to keep it going, keep it looking like it's an investigation while nothing's really happening. And then they had that deal that seemed to be a sweetheart's deal. I mean, sweetheart deals. At this point, have the Democrats not learned their lesson after Jeffrey Epstein's sweetheart deal back in the day? It's like we kind of see through it now. Sweetheart, if everybody doesn't get the same deal, it's not justice for all.
It was such a sweetheart deal. Even the judge was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, he's facing felony charges, and you're just going to get rid of it all, just 1 or 2 misdemeanors. He pleads guilty to 1 or 2. Even the judge was like, hey, I can't sign off on this. What are you guys doing? It's like, I mean, all right, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's negotiate again. And, so we're sorry, we're not, don't say we're trying to give him a sweetheart. It's obvious. Even the judge was like, usually judges just sign off on any deal because it was negotiated. But even this federal judge was like, come on, are you kidding me? I can't sign off on this.
It could bounce back on her later.
Yeah.
If she approves it. And, it was an odd deal. And, basically once she clarified and she said, are you willing to give up the part of the deal where it says that we can't charge you with any other pending?
They give him immunity for everything in that deal.
Yeah. And then he's like, well, if I can get charged for the other stuff, no, I'm dropping the deal.
We'll go to trial. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
What's funny is the only politician not to get sweetheart deals is Trump.
Yes, and I mean, ultimately, it's because he's not an insider either, because I'm sure there are plenty of Republicans that would help other Republicans, but the Republicans don't like him any more than the Democrats do. They didn't want him from the beginning. They just didn't rig the primaries like the Democrats did against Bernie.
Yeah.
They let the people decide, and the
Hmm.
people chose him, but they don't like him.
No, and they're going to choose him again, the voters. And
Yeah.
here's the Republican politicians are scared of their base, which is why they don't want to rig the primaries against Trump, because if they could do it, but if they do, then they'll lose their base. They all go vote for Libertarian, or they vote for whatever, or they won't vote at all, or they vote for Trump, because Trump will definitely run as independent and
Mm.
screw over the Republicans just to see them lose. So yeah, they're scared of Trump. They're scared of their base. That's why they won't do it. Meanwhile, Democrats are like, our base will always vote for us. We
Mhm.
can wars in Ukraine, and we can support genocide in Israel, Palestine. Doesn't matter. They'll still vote for us because they're scared of us, and they're scared of Trump. So they'll vote for us, no matter how much they want to grandstand right now and say, "I'm not voting for Joe Biden. He supports genocide and for the Palestinians." By the time next year rolls around, they'll turn right around and say, "You got to vote for Joe Biden because Trump is so evil." So they know that. That's why they're not worried right now. Even though a lot of their base is going away from them. Biden's phone numbers are a disaster. I mean, he's losing young people to Trump.
Yeah, yeah. And talking about the military, losing members of the military, they let go a lot of military members for not taking the jab.
Yeah.
Um, and now
Now
they're
they're
like,
bringing him back, or
yeah,
trying to.
most of them are like, that's okay. I'm,
Uh-huh.
I don't need, you guys need us more than we need you, because they've found something else, and they
Yeah.
realize because when you're a soldier, you're U.S. property. It's just like
Yeah.
prisons have, property of whatever prison. Soldiers have to do whatever they're told. Theirs is not to question why. Theirs is but to do and die, and they do.
Yeah.
And they die in training all the time, and it's just part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just ridiculous. And Trump is not getting any sweetheart deals because they want to get rid of him. Everybody, Republicans, Democrats, everybody in Washington wants him gone. So they'll do whatever it takes in order to get rid of him. I don't think they'll convict him on anything. I mean, even if they do, by the time the sentencing happens, it'll be after the election. So either he'll be president and it's moot, or he'll lose and they'll go like, man, let's give him probation or house arrest, whatever. Nobody will notice. He's not president anyways. So
Yeah, the goal. I mean, they don't really care, I think, if he goes to jail or not. They just don't want him to be president again.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's
they'll just give him house arrest at Mar-a-Lago, which is like a luxury prison basically. It's like, oh, who
right,
cares? Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's just absurd, and it's just a waste of time because Trump is leading in the polls. He's going to continue to lead in the polls, I predict, and he'll probably win again. And
Mhm.
what'll happen then, who knows? I mean, everybody's melting down about his not his plan, but conservatives, his supporters have a plan 2025, I think it is, where they have all these ideas on where they're going to and ban abortion nationally, and they're going to appoint more conservative justices and judges, and for them to rubber stamp whatever they're going to do. So I don't know whether Trump is actually in favor of this or not. He hasn't mentioned it, but a lot of his supporters, his prominent supporters, have this plan out there for his second term. It's the first 100 days of his second term, which makes no sense because first 100 days is after the first term, but first
Yeah.
100 days of his second term. So they have all these grand vision for the country, which is conservative, and take away abortion. They're gonna cut taxes even more than what they are right now. They're gonna do it. All the conservatives' dreams, basically, and all those policies they want to do, they're gonna do them because they think they're putting out something called the unitarian executive theory, which basically means the president's in charge of everything. That's their theory, which they're going to try to push from the courts and see whether they agree. Because if they do agree, that basically puts all the federal agencies under the White House authority, which right now is not the case. But if they put all the federal agency under White House authority, then Trump can either cut them, or he can, or any president can cut them, or they can,
I hope
get rid of them entirely.
he
Yeah, go
eventually
ahead.
gets the CIA, the FBI, even the
Oh
IRS.
yeah, I mean that'd be nice, but no president's going to get rid of the CIA or FBI, especially the CIA, because within the first 90 days, they'll if you even try to get rid of them, especially the CIA. I mean, they already killed Kennedy. I mean, pretty much everybody believes that now. So because Kennedy tried to get rid of him. So
Mhm.
it was like, oh no, we have to do something about Kennedy. Let's do. I mean, oh, Dallas, Texas. Perfect. We'll just use what's his face? The guy who supposedly killed him,
Lee Harvey.
Oswald.
Yeah,
Oswald. Yeah, he'll be our fall guy. And he'll we'll do. He's a communist. Remember, he married a Russian. So
yeah, but
Tommy, murder him.
he went back into
But
the country with no
uh
problems, and
yeah, he's
it was it's such a setup.
yeah,
He
he
was
was always a
he was
patsy.
yeah,
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 and then he was murdered by Jack Rose, so he couldn't talk.
yeah,
The
yeah.
mobster. Yeah, so he couldn't talk. He's dead. Kennedy's dead. Rose wasn't talking. I don't know because I guess the. Go ahead. What?
Ruby,
Oh,
Jack.
Ruby, Jack Ruby. Right, I said Rose.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I
Close.
mean,
I
uh-huh.
I just think of that because my father's from Dallas. My grandfather played at Jack Ruby's club, and my father
Oh
was actually
wow.
there during the motorcade. He was working at the library in downtown Dallas, and so
Oh
he
wow.
yeah, he actually went out on his break, saw them pass, and went back. And then they're like, "Did you hear the president was just shot?" He's like, "No, he wasn't. I just saw him, But it was that quick.
Yeah.
And my dad worked in the audio visual department of the library there, so he was one
Uh-huh.
of the first people to see the Zapruder film because it was brought
Oh
there, before it was presented to all kinds of people. But
wow.
yeah,
I didn't know about that, or else I would have picked your brain on that more about your
I didn't know
father.
about that until yesterday at Thanksgiving dinner. My dad
Oh
told me.
wow. So
I
you
knew
didn't even know either.
No, yeah, yeah. I knew a lot about how the family. My dad remembers Jack Ruby because my grandfather, when he would play the strip club there, he
Uh-huh.
would have to come in sometimes to get paid later. And my dad remembers going in with him. My dad was a kid, and he'd have like two Doberman pinschers. And my dad always thought it was weird because he'd be sitting in a dark room with sunglasses on. He was, who knows? But yeah,
Wow.
crazy times.
I don't know if you know this, but did your father hear any gunshots? Because he was the library, you said.
As far as I know, he didn't because when they told him he was shot, he didn't even believe it at first because he had just seen him, but he was inside the library again.
Yeah,
Um,
because the official story, as you know, was Lee Harvey Oswald shot like 3 or 4 times from the upstairs part of the library. So
yeah,
the gunshots were loud.
yeah, I think it was where they store things. So I think it was a separate building where
Oh, okay.
Oswald was, where they like archived stuff. Uh,
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I always wondered if people in the library heard the shots because I don't know whether there were shots fired, but I believe it's from the grassy knoll. It wasn't from Oswald up there.
Probably, I
Yeah.
mean,
So I wonder whether he even shot at all from there. And I always speculated that he probably didn't shoot at all, but it was he was the patsy. He was there, so I
he
wonder. He's like,
one of many. I mean, there were multiple attempts on JFK's life prior to that, plans to kill
yeah,
him in different cities, and they were foiled, but it was kind of the same team, apparently, according to um, uh, um, the director who did JFK. He recently did
oh,
a
Oliver Stone, yeah,
Oliver Stone. Yeah, he had a documentary recently where he talked about that, about how there were other plans because they didn't know necessarily where Kennedy was going to go, so they had multiple plans to kill him. It wasn't just Dallas.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like he just. I mean, the Kennedy assassination's always fascinated me, which is why when you said, "Oh, my father was there that day," I'm like, "Holy crap! I should have picked your brain about that more." But yeah, I mean, maybe another occasion, but. Yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, it's just no president will ever get rid of the CIA or even try because they will be killed. I
Yeah.
mean, this is why every president post JFK is like, "Oh, the CIA is awesome," because they have some suspicion. They have to. I mean, the CIA is awesome. Every president's given a speech at the CIA, and they're building in Langley. It's like, "Oh, the CIA is so great. The CIA this and that, and we need to continue funding the CIA. Trust us. We'll give you money. Just don't kill me." That's the whole thing, because everybody knows they killed Kennedy pretty much. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah, and I'm hoping at least in the first 100 days of whoever becomes president that Assange finally gets
yeah,
pardoned or whatever.
yeah. I mean, Trump won't do it. even though he said he would, but he's not. And he actually tried to go to Assange with a deal. It's like, oh, you give us your source and we'll let you go. And
Yeah.
of course, Assange was like, no, I'm good. Just keep me here. And then Trump never tried to. He didn't have to do that. He just could pardon him, but he wasn't going to do that because he wanted to show Washington, see, I got a we know who the source is now, so we can arrest him or kill him or her. Instead, it's like, no, he didn't want to just do a pardon because then he'll be attacked by both Republicans and Democrats because the Obama administration was the one who basically put Assange in jail.
Yeah.
They forced the UK or what to arrest him on those trumped up charges. Excuse the pun, but
Yeah. And but they did let Chelsea Manning go. So what's up with that?
the
And Chelsea Manning was a lot more directly chargeable because he
mhm,
was the one, or she
she.
was the one. Sorry guys, don't kill me.
Yeah. Don't Joe has to be canceled now. He referred to as he.
I dead named. Well, I didn't dead name her, but I did. What do you call it? Dead gender
Dead
her.
naming. Yeah. It's called dead naming because you're using their old name. So dead naming. I only found out about that recently because I did the same thing by mistake. So it's like, oh, you're dead naming her. I'm like, dead naming. It's like, oh, it's her former name, Bradley Manning. I used to. So now it's Chelsea, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's now Chelsea Manning is kind of anti-Trump, and so that's why they like her now, the Democrats and the Republicans, and not the Democrats in particular. They bring her on all their shows, like I think what's it The Intercept had her on their show, and she was talking about how she wouldn't have given the information she gave to Julian Assange. She would have given it to Ryan Grimm or something. It's like there's no way he would have reported on that.
Done anything with it? Yeah, he would have
He
been
would have
like,
buried it. It's like,
exactly. He's a total establishment tool, but he likes to pretend that he's more, left wing, and that he's pushing.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
every
the he's the
the
he's the
government.
bureau director for The Intercept in DC. I mean, he's an insider. He's like, "Oh, here, Ryan. Here's this important, historic story here on it," and he would have been like, "Oh shit, let me bury this because I don't want to piss off my friends in Washington." He wouldn't have done anything with it. Assange did. We
Yeah,
we know about it because of Assange, not because of because if he handed it off to Ryan Grimm, then we never would have known about it.
yeah. And if you
So I
look at
don't.
the government, our government has treated all whistleblowers from Thomas Drake to John Kiriakou to,
Mhm,
you know, their MO is anybody who comes out and releases information about the wrongdoing of our government, they do everything to destroy their reputation and to ruin them, and they'll try to literally kill them or ruin their lives, put them in jail forever. And these are people that care about the country. Thomas Drake, I don't know, there was a great article years ago, I don't know if you read it, in the New Yorker about
mhm.
Thomas Drake. I'll have to send you that article.
Yeah,
It's
you can send
online,
it to me.
but he was screwed major because he worked for the NSA, and part of his job was to go try and figure out how to. Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
a CIA cutout. Yeah,
yeah, all right, that makes sense to me.
yeah,
Um, yeah, he part of his job was to go through every single email that's sent in the world is reviewed by the U.S. government, by the NSA, but
mhm,
there are too many, and this was 20 years ago, but there were still too many for their personnel to be able to go through every one. So he was trying to create an algorithm so that only red flagged emails would come up, and
yeah,
they shot him down, and he was so frustrated because he felt that people's civil rights were being violated because you're not supposed to be reading people's private emails.
yeah.
So he went to, I think, the Washington Post, either the Washington Post or the New York Times, which wouldn't touch it today. They would have
They
said,
wouldn't touch it today. Yeah,
but yeah, they put out an article, and the next thing you know, his house was raided. They confiscated all his computers. They put him in jail, and he got off, but it was after a very ugly trial, and a lot of people, they always try and find dirt on you too.
yeah,
They'll interview everybody. Did he harass you in any way? Did he do anything inappropriate? If they can find anything to make you look like a scumbag, they'll use it to ruin your reputation. And even if it has nothing to do with the case, a lot of these guys, maybe they were perverts. Who knows? But that doesn't mean that they lied about the information that they provide to the public.
No, they
One thing doesn't have anything to do with the other.
no. No, they all these days. What they do is, as soon as you release information, you're charged with espionage. You're helping the enemy. You can't release any secrets about us, even
Mm.
though there are whistleblower laws that protect whistleblowers. But they say, "Oh no, you're not a whistleblower. You're trying to do espionage against the United States. So now we get to charge you." Like they did with Assange. They want to charge him with espionage. It's like, "Oh, he's a foreign agent of a foreign government." Which government? Most likely, they're trying to probably Russia.
But
I
they
mean,
kept saying it was
yeah,
Russia. Yeah, it was with no proof
no,
whatsoever.
nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, right now everybody's trying to frame, or there's a Media Matters is trying to frame Elon Musk as an anti-Semite, and the way they're doing
Yeah,
it is through algorithms claiming that he's promoting Nazi groups, and it's all David Brock, who was the same
yeah.
guy who was working with uh, Hillary.
Hillary, yeah, he
Yeah,
worked for Hillary for years.
yeah, and he's the one that he paid $1 million to get bots to go on Twitter and other sites, and basically, I think that was what created the Bernie Bros
Yeah,
myth.
they
You know,
did. It was
it was
Media Matters.
yeah, it was all anonymous people saying terrible stuff and misogynistic stuff, and everybody was like, "Oh, these Bernie Bros." Most of the people I knew that supported Bernie were minorities and were female.
Yeah,
So I was like, "What are you talking about?"
I,
I haven't met one Bernie Bro.
yeah, I was a big Bernie supporter in 2016 at least, and yeah, I mean, we were all mostly minorities. Another thing they said, they smeared Bernie supporters as mostly white and mostly upper middle class. It's like, oh, the poors and the Latinos and the minorities all support Hillary, but meanwhile the upper middle class white people, they all support Bernie. Isn't that bad, right? So it was David Brock, Media Matters, all those people who tried to, who did that, and basically smeared Bernie supporters.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sad to say that people in my own family and relatives of mine and friends of mine will repeat those lies and say, "Oh, he's an anti-Semite," and I always say he might be. I don't know, but if you show me the proof,
Yeah,
if he might be an anti-Semite. I'm not going to say he's not, but
yeah,
the documentation and not just some article from a magazine that doesn't have any hard evidence, because most people just hear 30-second sound bites and they buy into it and they're like, well, that guy's a pervert, or that guy's a scumbag, or that guy's this. It's like
30 seconds. There's no way you can get obvious or not accurate information in 30 seconds. Anybody says anything and it ends up 30 seconds on the internet, even to any of us could happen to. It's like, oh, it's taken out of look at him. He's a racist, or he's a sexist, or he's an anti-Semite, and it's like, but it's just you don't know the context of the conversation. Instead of like, if I say, oh, screw the Jews, for example, and that gets out there somehow, then I'm an anti-Semite.
put that right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
they'll fit that out.
Roseanne got in trouble recently, Roseanne Barr, because she said sarcastically, "Oh yeah," and she was being sarcastic about how the establishment, they're right about everything, and yes, of course you're right, and of course the Holocaust never happened, and so then
That was flipped out.
Krasenstein, when she's Jewish, and she had
Yeah,
the Holocaust, she's being sarcastic, but they can't catch that. And I think it's the brothers. I think their name is Krasenstein.
yeah, Brian and
And
Chris.
yeah, something like that. Well,
Yeah,
I think it was Brian posted a whole thing about, oh, this is shameful, how, and I don't know how she could ever say this, but, anybody who supports her, you really should think twice about it. And of course, he just takes the tiny little clip,
yeah,
where it's like, it
yeah.
doesn't show
There's no
any,
context.
yeah.
And it happened. People are doing it to Trump all the time. He did an interview with Univision recently, which was taken. They took some clip, take it out of context, and then on the internet, and everybody, the corporate media, online media, everybody attacked him for this. Even though it turns out he was saying the exact opposite. I don't remember the details, but I did watch that interview, and I was like, yeah, I mean, Trump is rational, at least here, at least, I mean, I know that as soon as I say he's rational, everybody melts down, but,
Yeah.
because everybody believes he's a psycho, he's crazy, but yeah, I mean, there are times where he comes across as rational and he's too honest. Like, oh, we went into Iraq for the oil, that whole thing that pissed everybody off. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, with Univision, there was a reporter that just quit because they said that they're becoming pro-Trump. And John Leguizamo just
Uh-huh.
did a whole thing where he's like, don't watch Univision because they're pro-Trump now.
That's insane.
I said,
Yeah.
I tweeted to him. I said, vamos. I said in Spanish,
Uh-huh.
we know. I said every media outlet is biased because he's like they're biased, and I said every media outlet is biased. The reason that you don't like this one is because they switched teams and they're not on your team anymore. But which is the truth. Basically it's all teams, and
Yes. Mm-hmm.
he's a minority, but he's also a multimillionaire or probably a billionaire by now,
Yeah.
and he's part of the Hollywood establishment. So he's going to say what they want him to say, and he's been that way. He was pro-Hillary back in the day.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm talking in Hollywood. I mean, they're firing actresses for being pro-Palestine from the Scream movie. I forget her name right now, but they fired her, the star of the movie, because she said something pro-Palestinian. Like,
Yeah.
how dare she, right? So you're gone, even though you're the star of the film, and like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, and Susan Sarandon's
Oh, she got dropped by her agent too, or agency. Is
yeah,
that, oh, you're pro-Palestinian? Yeah, we're dropping you. I was like, what? But she's one of the most famous actresses in the world. I mean, why would you drop her?
yeah,
Like, yeah, but that's what it's about. It's like, oh, you're pro-Palestinian? Yeah, that's worse than being pro-Nazi. Get the hell out of here. In Hollywood.
yeah. It's so crazy, and it's sad because we went through all of this in the '50s with McCarthyism and the blacklists,
Uh
and
huh.
we didn't learn anything. And the more time goes by, the more we make the same mistakes. The same mistake going back to the Salem witch trials. You know, we get into this mass hysteria and this hysterical blindness and burn the witch. That person, that if we kill this person, if we get rid of this person, that's going to fix all our problems. They're the cause of all our problems. It's like in the biblical scapegoat, which was an actual goat that everybody in the village would put all their sins onto and then drive it out. And that was
Yeah.
supposedly to bring, it's like, why don't we just start throwing virgins into volcanoes again if we're going to go that route?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to wrap up soon, but I'm gonna ask you one more question. What did you have for Thanksgiving?
I had lamb.
Oh wow,
I
no
made
turkey.
no turkey. He did bring chicken, but we didn't even get to the chicken. Other than that, it was all traditional Thanksgiving. It was stuffing and all that, but
Uh huh.
he lamb and
Oh okay.
wine. Como un buen español, there was
Uh huh.
red white wine.
Oh
You
nice.
have the best wine in the world. I'm sure people will ratio me over this, but the best wine in the world is Spanish wine from La Rioja. Que
Oh
viva
nice. Okay.
España.
Viva España. Yeah, I had the usual turkey and rice and stuffing and macaroni and cheese and potato salad and stuff like that. So that's what I had. So
That
yeah,
sounds,
yeah, it's
yeah.
good. It was arroz con gandules, the turkey, and all that good stuff. So yeah, so you can promote your show one more time, and I guess we'll wrap up. Because I'm kind of tired. Go
Oh
ahead.
no worries. And thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. Thank you for your patience. I was
Oh, no
planning
problem.
earlier. My wife asked me at the last minute. I should have known Black Friday. She's going to need my help.
Yeah, yeah.
My show is Dos Gatos en Tierra de Perros, which I co-host with Fernando Gerard. And again, we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on iVox, and you can also find us on a lot of other podcast affiliates. And thank you so much. And I hope to have you on again soon, and I hope to visit
Yeah,
you again soon, or
yeah. I
maybe.
would like to come back on your show again. It was fun. Maybe
Yeah.
I can get Fernando to come on here, but we'll see if he's available or not, or both of you are available. We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
set it up.
Sounds good. Sounds
All
good.
right. Well, thank you for coming on. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too in the chat. And I hope everyone has a great weekend. And unfortunately, on Monday, get back to normal life. So everybody go back to work. All right,
Yes.
no problem, Nick. Dr. Nick Rivera. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for coming on. And I'll see you guys next Friday. Hopefully, have a nice night.